Depression throughout my life has been a cinder block of the heart pressing down something that I didn't want to deal with or express. And once I was able to lift the cinder block a little bit and let myself naturally be whatever I was going to be, even if that was low energy or whatever you want to define it as, or some healing that needed to happen, or some inspiration that needed to come in, as long as I wasn't standing in the way, it helped to move things for me.
Hi, Jeffrey. How are you?
Hi.
I'm so happy you're here. This is exciting.
I'm excited to see you.
I have been binge watching all of your content lately, and I have to say it is the best way to wake up now, because it's like my own version of therapy that I wake up like to a positivity, to your voice. It's just so soothing. So I'm just like, I'm really excited to be here and learn more about you as well.
So many people say that. And I've been doing this for, I don't want to seem old, 10 years, over 10 years.
Yeah.
And so the best is when somebody who's a complete, obvious, like someone in their 20s, and they come running up to you and they say, I used to watch your Vines in middle school.
Wow.
I'd be
oh my
like,
gosh.
yes, I survived.
I'm actually jealous you went through Vine, because I didn't even get on that train. So that's impressive.
Was actually, if you want to talk about it at some time, there were no guardrails.
Okay.
There were no tools on Vine. You couldn't block people. You couldn't block words. You couldn't delete comments. You couldn't do anything on your channel. So it was very Wild West on Vine.
Now you have almost too many guardrails and too many rules, where I'm
like mysterious algorithm that picks up who knows.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm so excited to talk everything about social media and podcasting and your journey throughout the last 10 years as well, being a public figure. And I kind of wanted to start with your childhood. Where are you from originally? Start from day one. Can you just start from birth?
Childhood, I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
We were so farm that we had veal on the farm. And it was a working farm. By the time I got to graduate high school, the government had paid my dad to stop farming.
Oh.
We were subsidized to not. So we produced corn and soybeans. So there were subsidies not to do that. So the government was paying my dad to not farm anymore.
Interesting. Okay.
But I grew up with the farm life and just getting up very early in the morning. And I would sneak into the barn on our property and put on musical spectaculars.
Really?
All by myself.
All by yourself?
In the barn.
And do you have siblings?
I have two older siblings, but by the time I came around, so they're very close in age, and then there's a 6-year gap, and then there's me.
Okay, so
it's kind of an only child.
Okay, I see. So you would always do the performances for yourself. So I have two younger sisters, and so I would be like, I'm going to be the lead, and y'all can be my backup choreographers. and then we'd force my parents to watch us for hours. But I think it was different. Did you have animals that would at least watch?
There were cows in the barn.
Okay.
They couldn't go anywhere. They were on milking machines in the barn, so they couldn't leave.
Right.
Captive audience.
Yes. Okay.
And I would put on musicals for them.
Okay, amazing. So was there an early, I guess that would be one of it, or an early memory that you have of maybe questioning a gender expression or maybe sexual orientation, or is that just, kind of something that evolved over time?
I'm so glad you asked that.
Yeah.
Because when I have, most interviewers will say, like, when did you know you were different? That's the phraseology, right?
Okay.
And I always have to answer, I didn't really. Yeah. I knew I was a human being and wanted the same thing other humans want.
Yeah.
And when I was like 35, my mom said to me, you were always so brave. And I think she meant that I was so LGBTQ, like from a very early age.
Right.
And I was. And expressive.
Yep.
And when I heard that, when my mom said that, I just got so sad. Why would we create a world where kids have to grow up and be brave instead of just running around and being their rainbow selves?
Right. Well, because, to the contrary of that, being brave shouldn't be the cost of just being yourself and just being authentically you and putting on performances and, getting dressed up and just feeling good and feeling joyful, right? And, to be brave in that, it kind of implies that other people aren't, as capable of being able to do that, or maybe they feel unsafe doing so. Or, in a way, I would imagine growing up on a farm and in Pennsylvania as well, there were moments that would probably receive backlash or maybe feel unsafe. Is that something that you ever experienced? You're like, let's
Thank
unpack
you for
that.
asking that. Yeah, every single day of my existence, basically. And I grew up in the Christian church, which also was not, I happened to be in a church that was not accepting of me. And I learned very early to, well, I'll put it this way. I feel lucky. I was so darn rainbow expressive queer that there was no hiding it.
Okay. Yeah.
I just couldn't, it would be a gargantuan task for any young person to do.
Right.
And I still would find it today as a 48-year-old, a gargantuan task to not be me.
Right. Right.
Because it's so, what word do we want? Powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely.
So present.
And so whenever you were experiencing that pressure to kind of either dim your light or maybe feel like you're being too much, you shouldn't be this way, how did you navigate that, especially at an early age?
I tried.
Okay.
And failed miserably, and then took that personally, that it was my fault.
Okay. Yeah.
So I remember being in middle school. Poor Becky. I wonder where she is now. We went to see Godspell at dinner theater. Becky was my girlfriend.
Okay.
And I remember saying, I have a girlfriend.
Okay.
Right? Her name's Becky. She had braces at the dinner theater. We made out. It was not pleasant for me. And she had blueberry pie in her braces. This is the memory, the true memory.
I have such a visual right now. I just want you to
I
know.
gave you the
I know exactly
whole
what Becky
story.
looks like.
But I would say to other people, I have a girlfriend named Becky.
Okay.
And adults would laugh in my face, would just not believe it.
Yeah.
Right? And looking back, it's because I couldn't not be me.
Yeah.
Which actually is a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, at the time, I thought, I'm not safe. I got to hide. I got to do better at dimming my light, as you said. I got to just be different, other than this.
Yeah. Which I think also being a kid, when you just want to be yourself, you don't know how to like conceptualize societal norms, quote unquote norms, or these gender roles or any of these things, or gender expression or anything like that. You're just being yourself, right? And so when people are, especially adults, are laughing at you, people that you are looking up to a certain degree, are making you feel lesser than, I could imagine it's just very confusing. I grew up in Tennessee, where I grew up in a very Baptist Christian household, and religion was a part of everything in the society that I grew up in. And it was very similar, where a lot of the things you would hear about queer people were all these negative things. Like, they're the worst people. You never want to be that. It's a life full of sin. And, I would always grow up being like, oh, well, these people sound, like terrible people. A good thing that's not me, And then, over time when I...
How did that work out?
Here we are. Here we are after all these years. And over time, when I started to question myself, I was like, well, that narrative isn't me, so that can't be me, right? That can't be me, because I don't feel like I'm that characteristic of all these things. So
wait, let me stop you. Okay, so there was like an idea of what queer people are like.
Yes.
And you were like, I'm not that, so I must not be queer.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
And because
You're
the
breaking my heart right now.
The only narrative that I was taught was that you're the worst person, and you're living a life full of
terrible person.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, that was very confusing, because I didn't know how to be me without being the narrative that people told me that I was going to be. And it was just very, I don't know, it was a lot of trying to understand that. And I would imagine growing up in an environment where religion was still very much around, it must be difficult. And do I understand that your father was also a Lutheran pastor? Is that right?
My mother was.
Your mother was a Lutheran pastor?
Which is a very different vibe.
Okay.
Because there's like a conservative side of Lutheranism, and then there's the more liberal side.
Okay.
And so we were the more liberal side, but it's still generally a conservative religion.
Okay.
And I watched my mom go through misogyny when she became a pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the church.
And what was that like, experiencing that from a younger age, to see your mom experiencing misogyny as well?
She came home one time from the seminary, and a teacher at the seminary is the school for pastors. She came home from the seminary, and a teacher at the seminary had told her to lower her voice because people wouldn't take her seriously if she didn't have a more masculine sounding voice in preaching inside the church.
Wow.
And she was so angry.
Yeah.
She was angry.
Yeah.
And I just remember taking such inspiration from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our history together was quite complicated in whether or not she could accept me or not, and in what ways. But just seeing her fight to be herself was an amazement to me.
Do you think that that's maybe an early memory of where your resilience came from, or where the start of it? Maybe the start of it, or
oh, no. I'm so excited. I'm just wet. Keep it in. Yeah. Keep it in. This is real life. Thank you. So that's absolutely where the part of my inspiration came from.
Okay, yeah.
And I've always had lady heroes. I used to go in the backyard and pretend to be Linda Carter in Wonder Woman, because there's a certain strength in being yourself.
Yeah,
that I've always admired.
I love that. And would you say that many of them came from like women mentors in a way, or is that something that was all over the board? Is that somebody that you always looked up to? And was it a sense of like a balance between femininity and masculinity? And what did that look like? Was that something that you started to question as well?
Sure. Well, I've always been attracted to or found heroic people that, obviously are a mix of masculine and feminine, or some sort of defiance of their gender.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, we were gossiping about B. Arthur.
Yeah.
And the show Golden Girls, and how I found her to be such a hero when I was a child, because she defied, what it was supposed to be a woman on TV. Anybody who's expansive, I just love. I
actually love that too. And you're actually reminding me, when you just said that all of my favorite characters growing up were also women that had very powerful masculine features, but they were still in their femininity, but there was still like these gender roles that they kind of broke out of, and they were just like, I'm going to be masculine, I'm going to be tough, I'm going to be strong. Like Xena the warrior. Do you remember that saying?
She's not just a warrior, she's also a princess.
Yeah, princess warrior. Exactly. See, a balance between femininity and masculinity, whatever they've labeled, right, as being one or the other. Wonder Woman, same thing. Yep. And so it's actually kind of interesting now that I'm unpacking this as we talk about it. I'm like, what does that mean for me? But wow.
I think I was attracted. I don't know if you would say this. Well, attracted is a word. I mean, I had crushes on people, but also just magnetized by anybody who was in defiance of gender norms.
Yes.
And finding their own way and forging their own path.
Yeah.
That's who I was like.
I love that. I love that. I also think that still applies to my everyday life now, too. Even the people that I look up to are either advocates or activists or people who are changing the world. I'm like very drawn to that. If someone was listening in and maybe they're going through their own version of childhood struggle, or maybe some pain when it comes to their coming out journey, what would be some advice that you would give them?
Ugh, I hate this question. How could you ask me that? Because people DM me all the time.
Yeah.
Parents of trans kids DM me all the time.
Okay.
And they ask, how can I avoid having my kid get beat up at school, made fun of, et cetera? And nowadays, the answer, sadly, is I got to tell them, you're not going to avoid that.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're extremely diligent, and you move states and you do, you design the life in a certain way, which some parents do, and we bless them and we love them. Mm-hmm. But just in general, the way culture is toward people who are different recently, then you're not going to be able to keep your kid from being made fun of or sometimes worse. Yes. And what I tell parents is, then it's your job to create the safest haven for them in the home possible.
Yeah, I believe
it is your job to undo whatever they're going to face at school.
Yeah.
That becomes your task.
I love that, because I think sometimes, especially with LGBTQ plus people, I feel like sometimes our first introduction to what bullying is, or harassment, or any of that regard, it comes from...
say our own home.
Yeah, I would say it's usually what our... I don't know. And I feel like that is, a very common thing that I've, recognized within myself or within other people that I've talked to. And so I feel like just having that that piece of advice is so beautiful because it allows parents to realize that they have a choice in this. Whether the external factors are something out of their control, what they can control is something of creating something safe and supportive and caring and nurturing in the home, and how, that can build that trust with someone who's growing up and learning to navigate the world as well.
The parent must be the lighthouse then.
I love it.
The parent must be the bastion. And I don't want to leave that subject yet.
Okay. No, yeah.
I see you getting ready to change this subject. There's more to say. Because I went through a process where I took the outside voices, you're too queer, Jeffrey, that was the main theme, and I made those inside voices. And then the inner hate got to be so intense that I ended up moving, to a Buddhist monastery for a while. Right. Yeah. So in part of my life, I'm a Zen teacher. And I constantly tell people that you've got, in Western therapy culture, it's called reparenting yourself.
Yep.
But what you're doing is creating that bully-free zone inside yourself.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's imperative.
Wow.
You won't survive unless you do it.
And is that something that you would say a lot of the healing work that you have to do, and a lot of the, therapy can come in so many different forms, but it's kind of like facing those fears and facing a lot of the things that we've gone through in our past. And, so I'm 4 years sober, and it took me until getting sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It took me until getting sober or making that choice, that ultimate decision to face the fears that were always there. Is that something that you would say is in alignment with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sobriety is such an interesting subject. Because in the monastery where I trained, to be there, you had to take a vow to not have other substances as part of your picture, right? We didn't want anything, any substance at all, to cloud our perception of reality, right? So that we could study Buddhism. And so I took a vow to not drink, not do anything. And the trip to Buddhism came after I went to an awards show in Philadelphia. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I wore like a movie star outfit. It was like a silk gown, and like an old Hollywood movie star. And I was not nominated for an award, but I was in a theater production at the time, so I just went, right? And watched other people got the awards, and I was the queerest person in the room by far. Visibly queerest person in the room. And so I had a drink. Then I had another drink, and then I had another drink, and I ended up blacking out, and I woke up in my apartment, didn't know how I got home, and was surrounded by, my own vomit. And so going through that, I was on a journey to explore my own sobriety at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going into the monastery and taking a vow if the self-hate was going to come for me, I was going to sit with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Face it. You were using that kind of language, right? I was going to face it if it was coming for me. That decision is difficult to make, but powerful.
Yeah, I fully agree, because I think even right now what I'm going through is even the sobriety. I thought that in my head that if I got sober, that it would change all the relationships that were broken, or maybe all the trauma that was there.
Like a light switch.
Yeah, and right, Band-Aid fix, surgery done. But, I think I realized very early on that wasn't the case. Those relationships are still there.
Yeah.
And so I think right now I'm even choosing to step away from those expectations and sitting with discomfort and sitting with things that make me feel uneasy, because those have always been there. And that's what led me to substances, which is just very interesting that, now it's exactly what you just said, sitting with that and facing it, because it can be a very uncomfortable feeling. But I think that, once you can actually sit through it and realize, wow, I can be okay. And I feel that inner power is really beautiful.
I look at life as a series of gateways, that there's this pressure that builds up, and then you walk through a gateway.
Okay, yeah.
And the pressure relieves itself. And to me, choosing sobriety is one of those gateways for a lot of people.
Right.
And I recently had one, which we can talk about if you want to, about safety, a realization I had about safety. But you have this pressure build, and you're like, something is off. I'm doing the self-care work, I'm doing meditation, I'm doing whatever I'm doing.
Right.
I'm making the best choices I can, and something's not.
Right.
N-O-T, not. Until you have this new realization and you've walked through a gateway.
Okay. Yeah.
And the pressure is relieved. We're constantly asked not to be us anymore.
And then that makes you feel completely out of alignment.
It makes you feel like, what the heck? It makes you feel unsafe, honestly, was the realization I had recently.
It's true. It's true. And then whenever you step through that portal, that gateway, and then you actually step more into an alignment of yourself again, it almost opens new doors. And you're like, wait a second, what is all of this? Because it's, sometimes if you stay not going through that gateway, it kind of keeps those doors closed. I wanted to ask you, so I know that you are the first out non-binary person to appear on national television in 2016.
back in the day.
Yeah. What did that mean for you in the sense of visibility and representation for queer people, especially non-binary people as well?
I was working on, and you can actually see it, I think. People have told me. If you go look up the video, which has, gone viral a few times, because it was on Newsmax.
Yeah.
Which to me is so LGBTQ. Like the metaphor is so crystal clear to me that I was on Newsmax, and it's like the first non-binary person to tell our story was in a hostile environment, trial by fire, was what I had to do. And you can see that I am focused on being kind to myself. I had, before the cameras rolled, I had the tissue paper in, and the artist was touching up my makeup, and the crew was all around and doing the sound and everything that needs to happen. And the PA, if anybody knows about the industry, the PA then is like, everybody out, right? We're gonna roll, etc. And everybody sort of disappears. But before that, when they were touching up my makeup and everything, I'm sitting there saying, thank you, Jeffrey. I'm glad you're doing this. I love you. I'll be with you the whole time. Afterwards, let's go do something fun. Thank you. I love you.
Wow.
And so I was just working. That's the only thing that I was doing. And that, people have told me, if you watch the video, that suffuses the whole interview.
Wow. Okay.
Because I was there to be love.
Yeah.
Not even to show love or like, to be honest, I didn't care too much about other people, right? It wasn't on my menu.
Right.
Because I had to be with me at the time.
It was for you. Yeah.
And so I was just with me.
Yeah.
Being as kind as I could be to this queer person.
Right. And what was the response that you gave you in that moment? Was it a sense of relief? Was it a sense of safety?
Oh.
Was it...
Now you're getting on to something spiritual. Because we're not just one person.
Yeah.
We are a mentor and we are a mentee inside of us. And so to me, the mentor was saying, I love you. Thank you for doing this. And you're right. It was total relief.
Curious now, because I know a lot of times when we think about like parallel universes, and a lot of times we talk about our present self, our future self, and our past self, right, as being these three dimensions of who we are, or multiple dimensions of who we are. Is that something you picture as whenever you're having these moments of self-reflection? Is it like a younger you that you're talking to and saying it's going to be okay? Or is it just like who you are in this moment and you're the mentor and the mentee? Okay,
wait till you get into this.
Okay, so I'm so curious.
You'll be reparenting yourself.
Okay.
And then you'll realize that the reparenter needs mentoring.
Okay.
That you'll be talking to a young part of yourself saying, it's okay. It's okay to feel how you feel.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh my gosh, I feel such pressure and I'm stressed out.
Okay.
Having to reparent myself.
Right.
So then you can find an even deeper, bigger, grander, whatever metaphor you want, larger, bigger, higher self.
Yeah.
That's going to come in and say, it's okay to be stressed about that.
Right.
You can take a break today. We can, whatever, watch Netflix.
So it's like just this ever flow of giving yourself another layer of love and then another layer. Because even your present self, even me as like someone who's done a lot of work and a lot of healing, I'm like, some days I'm like, don't feel so healed. You know what I mean? So I'm almost like, this is a great way of thinking about it, because I'm like, oh, I can actually welcome in somebody who is me as somebody that can give me a piece of advice as well, which I actually really, I love that, because it's kind of giving this never-ending level. Because I think that in a way, sometimes when I talk to my younger self, it's in a position of like, I should have it all figured out right now. And I think
that
I love
person needs mentoring too.
Yeah. And I think that I love that, because I don't always have all the answers and I don't feel fully healed. So I think that kind of relieves that pressure as well.
Can I tell you about real parents?
Yeah.
So I never wanted either of my parents to be perfect.
Yeah.
So people that have read my story or know my story know that my dad was violent. And my mom, it was a lot more complicated, but that wasn't a really great relationship either. And I remember I never wanted either to be perfect. I just would have appreciated them being more frank.
Okay.
Meaning, what is it like to be a human being? If my mom had turned to me or had the tool, I guess I was born in 77. Actually, I was born 7/7/77.
Oh, wow.
I'm magic. I was born in 77, and people just didn't have this language then. But if my mom had ever turned to me and said, I'm just having a bad day, I'm having a lot of self-judgment.
Yep.
There's just like voices in my head telling me I'm not a good parent. Like, it would have expanded that it was okay to just have a bad day sometimes. And I'm not saying that to blame them. I know they were on their own path and there wasn't language again. But I'm just saying, my goodness, even inner parenting, it's like, I don't have it together. I'm not going to pretend I do. Yeah.
I love that because sometimes, even through my journey, I don't have a relationship with my parents, and I've been no contact with both of them several times. Really? Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I think that that's been a very hard journey for me to go on, but ultimately it had to come from a decision of me protecting myself and my peace in a lot of ways. But, I still, through this process, try to give them grace in the sense that they're also living life for the first time. And so maybe they didn't have the tools to know that they can reparent themselves in that moment, or what I'm learning now. And maybe they didn't know how to be emotionally there for children because they were taught I hate it when they say, I'm from a different generation. And I'm like, still. But I think, I'm trying to give them patience and grace that maybe they didn't have all the answers at that time and didn't know how to talk about it. But at the time, I do wish that they did, because I wish that, I think that maybe we would be in a different part of our relationship if maybe they did have the tools, which is also why I'm such a huge advocate for mental health and self-love and self-care, self-reflection, because I think it allows us to not only love ourselves more, but the people around us, and especially the ones that we want to show up more for the most. Because I don't doubt that my parents had love for me, but I do think that they didn't know how to express that. And that kind of damaged the relationship over time, which is interesting.
Sure. Okay, I'm turning the tables.
No, gosh, okay.
The amount of grace that you just showed your parents, the amount of context, maybe they were going through this, maybe they were going through that, right? The amount of grace you just showed your parents, how are you doing with showing yourself that level of grace?
That's true.
Don't tell me that's true. It's a real question, not rhetorical. You better answer it.
I struggle with giving myself the same grace, so I'll tell you that. Yeah.
So we're all accustomed, especially if you had trauma in your background as I do, right? We're all accustomed to giving.
True.
They're having a bad day. They're having a bad time. Their parents never taught them. On and on and on it goes.
Right.
And then we misspell something in an email.
Yeah.
And it's like the punishment does not fit the crime.
That's true.
So just something to keep in mind.
That is a good point. And I love that, because I think sometimes, we can be our own biggest critics and looking at ourselves in the mirror and creating this imposter syndrome or anything. But it's actually like, no, we're going to be okay. And we have the answers within ourselves. We just have to trust that. I don't know. I'm loving all of this. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy we finally got a chance to meet.
Me too.
Yeah.
As an out non-binary person, out LGBTQ public figure who was on Newsmax, who makes like weird ass videos where I'm really nice to people, right? All of this is incredibly, I get a lot of hate comments, threats, death threats, bomb threats. To me, well, I'll put it this way. Nobody really has a neutral reaction to me.
Okay. It's one of the
They just really love me or they're really repelled by me.
So it's very passionate either way.
Very passionate. And I've come to think of, this may be the weirdest thing that I say. I've come to think of everyone as loving me. They're just on this spectrum where some people have really forgotten. But everybody loves me.
Yeah, I love me in particular.
Me in particular. No, I'm not shying away from that. Me in particular.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw a video that you said the other day, and I loved it because you were talking about how you show up as love, and then you get hate comments.
Yep.
And then they were just like, you should stop. You should, you shouldn't do videos like this. And you were like, no, actually, I'm going to show up even more as love, because it's very clear and evident that through all this hate and all this backlash, that there needs to be even more love.
It's needed.
Yeah. And I love that, because I think sometimes whenever we receive comments, especially being a public figure, you receive comments constantly. I receive death threats and rape threats and things like that. And that's something that I don't want to give too much focus on or a narrative as much, but it is a reality. But I also recognize that the people that are sending these messages are also hurting. And again, maybe I should give myself grace more, but not as them as much. But I think it's really admirable that you're still like, regardless, I'm choosing love. And I think that that is so powerful. And I think hopefully that will change their minds even an inch or 2 inches throughout their day. Even if they're leading with hate online, maybe they'll go home and be like, maybe I could try kindness a little bit. You never know. I don't know. I think that that's really powerful.
I'm going to use it as a teaching moment. You said that I'm going to use hate as a teaching moment.
Okay.
Because you said I don't want it to be so much part of our narrative, right? The way that I talk about it always is from a perspective about ending hate inside and outside us and in humanity, period. Yeah. So they're actually doing me a favor by commenting the most vile things you've ever seen. Oh, I could tell you stories.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're actually doing me a favor.
Yeah.
Because now I have an example I can work with
That's
about how to
cool.
transcend the nastiness inside. And I don't know if you will identify with this, but I realized at a certain point, this may be shocking. There is nothing a hate commenter online could say to me that is worse than anything I've said to myself. The self-hate I have has been so vicious that there is absolutely nothing somebody could comment. Not a thing.
You're like, oh, that's child's play.
I'm like,
this is good.
You must be just starting out because, right?
You're like, let me give you some pointers, some tips to really get to me.
It's like, you think that's my big issue?
Yeah, right.
Learning to transcend it inside makes them child's play.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that they're not dangerous.
Yeah.
We can talk about political stuff if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, people, the LAPD was at my house, right? There's danger. And the spiritual aspect is nobody could ever tell me anything, cause me to leave me.
Yeah.
That's it, period.
And do you find that it's because ultimately you've making the choice that even through those things that you've told yourself that could be harmful to your own well-being inside, that you still choose love, you still choose compassion with yourself, even with those thoughts and those feelings? Is that why you feel like you've created like this armor around yourself a little bit as well?
That's so interesting you say armor. I want to hear so much more about that because it's really like Jell-O.
Yeah.
I mean, my teacher at the monastery used to say, if you would like to, you can make fighting, they are trying to nail Jell-O to the wall.
Okay.
That's what my interview with Newsmax was.
Right.
So the interviewer had a nail and a hammer, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
I don't have to play my part in the hatred.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Takes two to be hating on each other.
Yeah.
And if just one is doing the hating, things fall apart.
Well, I think a lot of times they come at it from a place that they want to receive a reaction. They want to receive this, like, they want to receive the fight, right? That's what they're going for. A lot of times they're like, I'm so charged in my anger, like, let's fight.
Should we just gossip really about it?
Yeah.
They're just feeling so powerless that they want the power of eliciting a reaction.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I put their comment on screen and I'm like, it seems like there's something you might want to work through.
Right.
And it's okay that you
How many times do they delete their comment afterwards? Do they leave it?
Well, you notice I screenshot and then, because they can't do anything about that.
Right.
Hey.
Interesting.
But they come into my world, I am not going into their world. They and their comment are coming into this unconditional love.
What do you mean? You don't go online and keyboard warrior people? You're like, actually, it's me. I'm doing it to myself.
Well, yes, as we said, lots of people do it to themselves, right? That's the inner self-hate.
I wanted to ask you, because I know you had brought up the political climate.
Yes.
And I know we could probably use another 3 hours for this because,
let me get some more coffee.
Started. Yeah, absolutely. So, right now we're seeing right-wing America, right-wing media taking over, and they're really targeting LGBTQ plus people of marginalized communities, and it's creating just one scapegoat after another. If we're going to lead with love, if we're going to lead with kindness, and how do we continue to show up for ourselves and for our community in a way that we can fight back against that in a Jell-O sense and not in an armor sense? Because now I want to change my own language.
Sure. Sometimes, if you need armor, I don't think there's anything bad or wrong about it. I just think it's spiritually interesting to explore that you cannot not play a part of aggression too, right? And some of my biggest spiritual heroes have, it's not pacifism by any means. I mean, something like a sit-in, right?
Right.
Or the Montgomery bus boycott, right? These are not passive actions, but they're also not thoroughly, militaristic or aggressive, right? So that we can talk about that as like political action. But if people are struggling, find the small acts within your community with real human beings to keep you going and help someone real in their real life. And that will bring you back to what's most important.
Absolutely. And I think that, something that I like to remind myself and then others as well is like we've never had more allies in this in any moment of history.
That
right?
is true.
We are more powerful in our communities, like plural, from different walks of life than we ever had before. And we've gone through tumultuous times as the LGBTQ plus community.
This is going to sound so weird, but we're on a good list.
Yeah.
The people they target, I want to be on that list. I mean, if we have to have two political parties and one targets and one isn't,
yeah.
I want to be in the isn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And the list of folks, women's rights, disabled rights, indigenous folks, immigrants, right? It is such a long list of beautiful, wonderful people that enrich the world.
Yeah.
I want LGBTQ people to be on that list.
Yeah.
And we are.
Yeah.
Which is so weird. It's like, we're lucky to be targeted. But it's like, the targeting is not even that relevant to me.
Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, again, I've been doing it for a decade. On Vine, like people with 8 million followers would come into my comments and call me an FAG. It's like,
wow.
You have no, I'm throwing the set around.
Yeah.
You have nothing else you can be doing.
Yeah.
Anywho, so I've faced and survived,
right.
from my childhood all the way up until now. I've had so much pain and the possibility of pain that learning to live with that and be okay with other people's pain and be a safe space for people. Got it.
You're good. Yeah.
I'm on it. Right.
I love it.
And so to have a government that bullies me is it actually wasn't that. Again, before we recorded, we were talking about how it's the election threw people off and it was like a sea change for everybody, as it would naturally be. And I was pretty sure right away who we were dealing with and what was expected.
I think that was part of one of the issues that came from with my dad, because my dad, when we were growing up, he was very open-minded, very loving, caring. He had 3 daughters, and he would be open about going to buy feminine products, and he would dye our hair, and there was no like worry about this being too masculine, or he was always just a girl's dad, right? And it was always beautiful. That's how I remember him. And it's interesting now that we're watching the political climate basically change the way that our parents are, because even now my dad, I don't recognize him anymore. And it's very difficult to navigate that, because now he would rather have the politics that he has at the expense of his 3 daughters' right to their own bodies. And my sisters live in Tennessee, where they don't have access to abortion anymore.
Marsha Blackburn.
And so that's
terrible.
And so this is where I'm seeing, it's very interesting. I think that I'm trying to watch at it from a perspective of, in a couple of years' time, there will be documentaries around the psychology of everything happened, the sociology, I guess, in a way, of everything happening.
100 years from now.
Yeah, how it's creating this ripple effect throughout America. If someone was listening in and maybe they are feeling heavy right now, but they really want to turn their mind to more of like a joyful and more of a happiness, what would be some advice that you would give to them?
Watch Golden Girls. The Henny Penny episode, the best episode of all time, where they have Henny Penny the musical.
Yeah.
That's going to help you, or it helps me at least. We're your friends. The people you're listening to, literally the 2 of us, we think like you. We believe like you do. You are not alone. And you're not alone in the feeling of the heaviness. I don't know if you feel this as a queer person, that things have been heavy my whole life. Yeah. Like, I can't.
You're like, I was born for this.
Literally. I mean, like a conventional, like non-LGBTQ cis straight person, like that they just don't have that what do we call it, enriched experience of having to deal with bullies around every corner of your entire life. And then seeing how unimportant they are. And I think we've lucked out a little bit that these bullies are fumbling.
Yeah.
Not as efficient as some bullies throughout history, shall we say.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to taking care of yourself, the first thing you'll experience is guilt. And that's what you need to undermine. So right now, I can't take care of myself because the world's on fire. Are you sure? Let me be a walking emblem that has to come all the time. Not even first. It just has to be 24/7 for us to be able to save the world in any capacity, period.
I love that because I think after the election specifically, I was like, I'm
Which
crash and
election?
burn. It was just a little local election, just a tiny little one.
Local to the U.S.?
Yeah. I had a full-on crash out because last year I covered the DNC. I was one of the first content creators in history to be able to go and cover the DNC. I was very active with the Kamala Harris campaign.
I remember that. They invited me and I wasn't able to go. I was doing something else, but I was going to go.
We would have met and that would have been amazing. Our first
been best friends early instead of just now.
And I think it was one of the highlights of my career, especially, or in my life, not even career. It was an honor for me to be a part of that. And then, I was so sure, I was just so sure that love was going to win in that moment. And it's what it felt like to me. And then whenever it didn't happen, I think that it really pulled the rug out from under me and I crashed and I burned. And it was very difficult for me to find like a motivation and an inspiration in my creativity. And that's when I was like, no more complaining. I am going to find a new way to find my passion and my motivation again. And that's when this podcast kind of came to my idea where I was like, I think that we should all sit and remind ourselves that we are more alike than we are different. We all have things that we've gone through or are experiencing currently that makes us more alike than different. And even in our current struggle or the state of the world, that is a shared trauma, and we're trauma bonding on a mass scale right now. So
on a national scale.
And I think, that is something that I'm finding a lot of joy in, is kind of repivoting back to that self-care. I would love to ask you about self-care. Yes, I know that this is
about crash out.
Yeah.
You were depressed for a while. That's what you mean when you say crash out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a crash and burn, like a one where, it was very difficult for me to kind of like pick up the pieces where they were. And I think, as what you mentioned, I've been through, various forms of depression over the years. And I think I was like, I can recognize this. I understand that what this feeling is. So I'm like, what am I going to do about it? And I could either sit in it and stay in it, or I can make the choice to change. And like, that was where I was like, we're going to do something that feels tangible. And that was what
only for myself. I will only speak for myself. Depression throughout my life has been a cinder block of the heart pressing down something that I didn't want to deal with or express. And once I was able to lift the cinder block a little bit and let myself naturally be whatever I was going to be, even if that was low energy or whatever you want to define it as, or some healing that needed to happen, or some inspiration that needed to come in, as long as I wasn't standing in the way, it helped to move things for me.
I think you mentioned something earlier about whenever we are talking about self-care, how there's shame with that. And I think that is very, very accurate. I think that a lot of times we're taught being selfish is wrong. It's guilty. You shouldn't feel this way. And then you kind of put it off. And then that cinder block, like you said, gets heavier. And maybe another cinder block gets put on top of that, right?
Not only is there no shame, I was talking about this with a friend. Whatever excuse you have, use it.
Yeah.
I know, so I life coach people one-on-one too. And a lot of the clients I work with, they want to heal so that they are a better someone for someone else. Better partner, better parent, right? And then they feel guilt and shame, like, I should be doing it for me. It's like, no way. Whatever excuse you have, just do it.
Yeah.
Just get on with it. And use, whatever quote-unquote tricking yourself into self-care that you can at this point.
Like,
do
please,
it.
take it all.
Just do whatever works and do it.
I want to ask you about Buddhism, because I know that was, you ended up in a Buddhist monastery.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? I know this is going to be a loaded question, but how is that life-changing for you? Because I'm so curious, and I would love to hear what Buddhism means to you and how that changed your life.
Certainly. I was actually lucky enough, which is still rare, I was lucky enough to train with 2 women.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Sherry and Ashwini. And Sherry actually wrote a book, and she was the person who came up with the term self-hate.
Okay.
Before it then, when it went into, Western therapy contexts, like as in, quote, self-hate, end quote, to refer to that thing inside all of our heads. So my training was focused almost completely on transcending self-hate. I could not have asked for a more providential experience.
Okay.
Because I had a ton of it. But also now I get to spend my life helping other people do it. And as far as I can tell, there's not a person I have yet met who wasn't told there's something wrong with you. Isn't that shocking?
It's crazy, yeah.
Terrible? Like, why are we doing this
Yeah.
as a society? And you see what it leads to.
Yeah. I always think about this where I'm like, as human beings, we had this opportunity to just like live this one existence or this existence, this current existence with love, compassion, kindness. We could be free, frolicking through the fields.
Nice to each other.
We've chosen taxes and bills and capitalism. And I'm like, why did we do this to ourselves? And it's kind of like what you just mentioned, it's like transcending that. But I always think about that where I'm like, we had such a beautiful chance to change that as humans.
We've chosen hate. We've chosen division, clawing at each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that love will always conquer hate?
There's no contest. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that something from your experience? You've seen it time and time again through your life coaching, through Buddhism, through life journey.
I've experienced it.
Yeah. I love it.
There's just no question at all.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of people try to get rid of that nasty voice. And it's actually, you don't even need to.
Yeah.
Honestly, it can just be like mouthing off and doing its thing and you're living.
Yeah.
And you actually don't, you don't need to conquer it.
Yeah.
And in a sense, going out to conquer people gives them more power than they sometimes deserve.
Completely. I feel like sometimes, to me, the reason why I always want to surround myself with positive, loving, kindness people is because, to me, I feel like hate and fear hold so much more energy. I feel like it costs me so much more energy to hold on to that hate or that anger or those more, I don't even want to say negative emotions, just an emotion that I don't want to feel, right? Because I guess maybe not all emotions, I don't know, would be negative. They're just emotions of passion of some kind, right? As we mentioned. But I feel like, I don't know, I think to me it's just so much heavier to feel anger and fear than it is to just be like, I'm here and I'm going to love and I'm going to be compassionate at all times.
A lot of spiritual teachers talk about hate like grabbing a coal out of the fire to throw at someone. You might hit them and do a little damage, but guess whose arm is burning off? It's yours. Carrying around that hate is too heavy. And carrying around self-hate, we can just start there.
Yeah. And it's kind of relieving to put that realization that we all have it, right? Like this is why I have Sonder written on my arm, on my hand, because it's like that complex realization that we're all living our own lives with our own fears, with our own little self-hate person in the back of our head, right? We all have that. And sometimes if you can just recognize that in one another, then it's like, oh, we're all human. We're all going through this crazy journey of life together at the same time. So
it's honestly a system that helped us survive. Again, I'll speak for myself. Hopefully people can relate.
Yeah.
But I needed to have that self-hating presence so that I would be the perfect child and therefore be safe.
Okay.
That was the trajectory. And then you end up surviving your childhood into your 80s, 90s, till you're 100 years old and dead. You're surviving your childhood. Do people really want that life?
Right.
So we got to learn to transcend and move on.
I would love to ask you about what authenticity means to you.
Authenticity is the absence of self-hate. That's all that it is. Really. And again, you don't have to conquer that voice and get rid of it totally. It will diminish over time and it will disappear at one point. But you don't have to even worry about that. It is just, you're not the boss of me any longer.
This is why I love having you on right now, because I'm like, I'm going to listen to this interview, this conversation back.
This was for me.
Yeah,
oh my God.
No, I honestly just made this podcast for this episode. I'm just joking. But I feel like it's so powerful because, again, it's just reminding you that we are all alike. We all have the same feelings, the same experiences, to whatever degree that might be.
Indeed.
But ultimately, to our foundational level as human beings, we all have these same fears, the same joys, the same love, the same strive to be seen and heard and validated. So,
Can I say something totally controversial?
Please.
Spiritually,
Yes.
Donald Trump lives in all of us. The capacity to behave in certain ways is within all of us. And so for anybody who is ultimately extremely thrown by certain people, certain actions, certain situations, looking within is really the only answer.
And do you feel like it's almost like a form of projection in a way where we dislike someone so much because we don't want to see ourselves in them? And is that similar?
That's what's coming in your comments,
Yeah.
my comments on the internet.
Yeah.
There's something about them that they put out here and then they comment to try to get rid of it. And bad news is, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. I'm still going to post and I'm still going to continue being me.
Well, it's not going to affect me,
Yeah.
certainly, as we've covered, but it's also not going to help them feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just literally not going to work.
No, I completely agree.
They can't get rid of themselves by putting it onto me.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
You said you grew up Christian?
Yes.
Yeah, so like the literal scapegoat in the Bible is a story about like putting the sins onto a goat, right? And sending the goat out or something,
Right.
or killing the goat or whatever. But it's like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. They'll come back or they never left, your
Right.
sins, your quote unquote sins.
Yeah, your
right?
sins. Wow. I feel like I could just keep going on and on because I know we've only touched on certain parts of every topic, and I'm just like,
Well,
it's
we've
just
got to
beautiful.
do a part two.
We should
That's
do a
it.
part two, absolutely.
Do outfit change, everything.
Honestly, that would be amazing if we could do it. What is your favorite thing about being a life coach?
Seeing people realize that they're worthy of love. Truly, I will tell you, coaching for selfish reasons, just seeing that in someone's eyes, it's like it keeps me going
Yeah.
day after day.
And that would be what you would say is what your why or your the impact you want to
Sure.
leave behind as well.
Sure. There's just this, voice inside everyone's head. You're not worthy, you're not worthy, you're not worthy. And then I am able to just say, is that true?
Yeah.
It's more complicated. than
Yeah.
that. But, just undermine the power of that voice enough that they're like, I wouldn't treat a total stranger like this. You're too much, you're too fat, you're disgusting, people hate you. Like that diatribe inside people's heads.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that to another person.
Yeah.
And to just have people realize that and be like, oh, now I need the tools to just live that, right? That's the corner to turn.
It's amazing because it's such a breath of fresh air that we all have the tools to make those decisions. It's just like allowing ourselves to feel that, allowing ourselves to go through that little bit of discomfort or a lot of bit of discomfort to get to
Truly.
that point because I know it takes
Don't
time.
false advertise it.
You're right. No, it's not easy.
It's a lot of discomfort.
I've been through a lot of healing journey, and I'm always like, is it done yet? Please let it be done. But maybe that's part of the fun is realizing that it's always going to be there and always being more curious about.
Can I trick you?
Yes,
Have you ever loved anybody in your life?
I have.
Like really, truly, your heart open, you love somebody?
Yes,
Were you asking, when is this over?
that's true.
If you're going to learn to love yourself,
That's true.
we hope it's never over,
Right.
don't we?
Yeah.
For the rest of time.
I think that's one of my favorite things about this era that I'm going through is I'm realizing I'm falling in love with learning about myself. And it's become this new beautiful form of, I guess you could say addiction. We'll say with that. I'm addicted to understanding myself on a deeper level, and I love it. It's just been such a joyful experience because then I can also, like you said, show up better for others and the people around me as well. I do have some silly questions for you.
Great. Fun. Joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll take it.
Joy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have your podcast, Inner
Yes.
Voice, which is something that I found so helpful as well. And this has just been
Yeah.
incredible. So I want everyone to go and listen to Inner Voice as well. You have your podcast, Inner Voice. Let's say it had a chaotic cousin, Outer Voice.
Sure.
What would you be something that you would talk about?
If the podcast was Outer Voice.
Yes, and it was a chaotic
cousin. I think it would probably be a place to discuss fashion
Okay.
and particularly thrifting. That's Outer Voice.
Okay. Thrifting in what sense though? Like vintage thrifting or like Los Angeles vintage where you're still paying $400 for a t-shirt?
I know. It's like, this is Tom Brown. And you're like, this is vintage and it's $500. Yeah. No, I'm talking about like being queer. I grew up in the middle of Pennsylvania and like go into the thrift store and buying some lady's wig she didn't want anymore. And it is in bad shape and you fix it. Like that kind of like expressing yourself by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
That's what Outer Voice is about.
You actually just reminded me. So I was just in the UK recently and I went to Brighton. I don't know if you're familiar. Went to Brighton and there was this vintage thrift store that everyone goes to. Basically, it's just this giant thrift store full of everything you can think of. I mean, from every decade. And in one of the bins, there was all these old vintage photographs. And in the photographs were people celebrating their birthdays, people driving their first car, or maybe blowing out their birthday candles. But these are from like the 50s, the 60s, right? And they're all black and white. And you know, it was so beautiful. And like there was one particularly where it was like a dad playing with his two sons. And I started tearing up and I was like, why is this so emotional to me? I don't know, because I just feel like it was so beautiful that even in all the spans of time, right? Like even the people that came before us, I have no idea where they are now, but here they are, their memories in this box that we can now buy. I don't know why that got to me, but I was like crying in this thrift store.
We didn't even get to talk about going no contact with our families and our parents, but our past has been stolen. My parents had a box much like that, filled with photos I didn't recognize from people who weren't. When I was a kid, I remember this box and I was like, who's this? Who's this? Who's this? I didn't know. And it's like, I would have loved to have gone through it with them.
Right.
And been told, this is Aunt so-and-so, this is Grandma, great grandma, who's-he. But that's taken from us. Yeah. And so a mourning of our past, as you're saying, maybe can be replaced by how we treat ourselves now.
But actually, maybe that is why, because I was like, why am I crying? Like, why is this so terrible? But it's also, I guess, in a sense where I felt these people who I'm never going to know, the nostalgia through their childhood, which I was just like, I felt like a mourning in a sense that I wasn't going to have that, because even me, I don't really have much footage or photos of like my childhood. So maybe that was actually true. Oh, I'm going to cry again.
Do it.
It's like
I can talk to the audience while you're crying.
Yeah, I'm like,
time.
Here's a tissue, right? That's why I put that there.
Be with yourself.
No, but that's actually, I love this. Outer Voice. You can make it a thing. A whole vintage.
The podcast, the real one is Inner Voice. We'll do the chaotic cousin. Maybe we should do it together.
Right. There we go.
Outer Voice.
And we can go to all the random vintage stores around America and see what we can find.
And buy photographs and make up stories.
I love it.
But I'm a sucker. Any fiction that's about a parent really, truly accepting and loving their child, I'm toast.
You're in it. Do you have any favorites?
Inside Out.
Okay. Oh, actually, I don't think I've seen it.
Oh,
I should watch it. Okay.
You should.
I'll add it to my list of things that I want to cry to.
Yeah.
Okay, what is something small or mundane that makes you feel oddly powerful or joyful? Like for me, it's like taking all the groceries in at one time. Like I would refuse to do multiple trips. It makes me feel really powerful.
Like 5 bags?
Yeah.
And you take them
yeah. Like 10 bags. Let's go crazy.
Wow. How did you do it? I
struggled.
Need pointers. I need tips. I didn't used to get my nails done.
Okay.
And I do. I have these. This is Gel X manicure, if people know the different kinds. And I never used to get it done because I really had that scrappy queer aesthetic of like, I got to do everything myself. And it is something to be designated male at birth, to be your non-binary self and come into the nail salon. But I went into a salon, here in LA, and originally, this was years ago, and they were just as accommodating as can be, and you sit and you gossip, and now I take friends, and I just love to do it. My nails are magenta.
They're beautiful. They're really beautiful. I'm like, I gotta like clean mine out. This is very.
I always do square because I'm very like 1980s secretary is my whole vibe.
Yeah,
and that's the.
You look fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
When you got out of the car, I was like, oh, okay, we have a superstar here.
Yeah, that's something that makes me feel powerful to look down and see them.
Maybe I should try it. I haven't done my nails in a hot minute, so maybe I should treat myself.
Have you ever done tips?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Is that the one where you like?
It's like a fake nail that goes on your nail.
Oh yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. I haven't done that part. I'll be really proud of myself if I do color, but you know what? We'll try it. You never know.
Sure. Now maybe they have gel, so you can't. Right. It's harder to to
Yeah,
screw
because
up.
I think that's my thing is I hit my hands on everything and then they chip. And then after they chip, the ADHD in me, I'm like,
Maybe we
picking
go
at
to the
them.
salon together.
That would be
Tips.
amazing.
Great.
But thank you so much for telling your story. And I know we could talk for hours. And
You're welcome.
I loved it. It was
I know I
amazing.
turned the tables. Thank you for telling your story.
You did. It caught me off guard, but I was like, you know what? Let's just lean into it. I loved it. So thank you so much. I appreciate
It's
you.
needed.
It is
I told you
needed.
this before we started recording, but you're a public figure too.
Thank you.
And nobody will love us unless they know us. So we've got to keep telling our story.
If you could just tell people where to follow your journey on social media.
Camera B.
Camera B.
Hello, everyone. JeffreyMarsh.com. That's JEFFREY. Don't be giving me any of this GOFF business. JEFFREYMARSH.com. The Jeffrey Marsh on TikTok, Insta, all the places. Come find me, not on X, but come find me, and I'd love to connect with you. Oh, Inner Voice podcast. That's mine. We'll be friends over there.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, we're going to hug. Come here.
And that's a wrap on this episode of She Comes With Baggage. If you loved this conversation, please make sure to follow She Comes With Baggage on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for more content and behind-the-scenes moments. And if you're tuning in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other audio platform, don't forget to leave a review. I love hearing from you. Your support helps to keep these conversations going. And just remember, if you are carrying any baggage, you're not alone, and we're all more alike than we might realize. See you soon.